Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining our call today on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. I'm Beth Johnson with the Overland Park Chamber, and we are happy to host this call for you, along with our partners that you probably saw listed on one of the earlier slides. They include the local chambers of commerce and the Restaurant Association. We know that you are anxious to hear more about the RRF program, and I want to leave as much time for the review and your questions as possible. Please submit any questions you have in the chat so that we can get to those at the end of the presentation. Our presenter today is Michael Barrera, the District Director for the Kansas City District Office of the SBA. I won't take time to go over Michael's resume. You can find that online if you're interested. But we are so glad to welcome him back to the Kansas City region, and we thank him for joining us today. Michael, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Beth. I'm looking forward for this presentation. Just so everybody knows, a little bit of the background. I come from a restaurant background. My parents own a couple of restaurants. I have a cousin in Claycoma that's owned a restaurant for 55 years. I have a cousin that's part owner of a restaurant there in Lenexa. I've got another cousin who's an executive chef. So I grew up with the restaurant industry. I have another cousin that owns a bar. So in Wyandotte County. So I've been through all of this, and I know the change and the how much work it is to be a restaurant owner and what you have to go through. So I'm so glad we got this, so we can help restaurants and bars and lounges get through this pandemic. So I'm going to go through the presentation here, and I'll try to be very slow. I tend to talk fast, so if I do, just somebody raise their hand and I'll slow down. Okay. Again, I'm here with Small Business Administration, and the Restaurant Act is really part of the American Rescue Plan Act, which became public law on March 11th, 2021, and it established the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, or RRF. Now, there's been $28.6 billion for the RRF, and it authorized the SBA to award funds through grants. The appropriations will remain until they're fully used up. Now, a lot of folks think that if this goes so well, maybe someone will start asking, you all can start asking Congress to fund more money. But right now, it's set at $28.6 billion. And there's $9 billion of that is set aside for things that we'll talk about a little later. The fund must be used for eligible uses, which we'll talk about, no later than March 11th, 2023. So what's good about that, you'll have, when we go over the eligible expenses, you'll have until March 11th, 2023 to use the money for those eligible expenses. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's who's eligible. Restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, and taverns, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, like coffee shop, ice cream shops, bakeries. On that, and you'll see in bakeries, brew pubs, breweries, wineries, and inns, there's an asterisk there. What that asterisk means is that you've got to show that 33% of your sales came from, of your gross receipts came from on-site sales. So that means people going in and they actually eat or consume the product on site. Okay. Now, the SBA may provide funding up to $5 million per location, not to exceed $10 million total for the applicant and any affiliated businesses. When I say applicant, I mean the business itself is the actual applicant, and you as the owner are the owner or the authorized representative for this particular grant. The minimum award is $1,000. Okay. Now here's some good news, and a lot of we were kind of talking about it. A lot of restaurant owners, since this is a grant, there's normally a procedure you have to get a grant, but they were able to waive these procedures for this particular grant. So applicants do not need to be registered in Sba.gov, which is a contracting website, and SBA will not require a DUNS or cage identifier. Now, valid unexpired I-10s will be acceptable. Any information regarding I-10s or regarding expiration, frequently asked questions, you will go to irs.gov, because that's kind of their bailiwick on that particular subject. Okay. Now, the ones that are ineligible are the following. If it's a state or local government operated business, as of March 13th, 2020, the entity owns or operates together with any affiliated businesses more than 20 physical locations. So what this means is, like, if you have a truck business and the home business is where all the, you pay the bills, or you gas it up, that's the physical location. Every truck will not count as a different location. So it's actually the home office. Okay, that's so the business cannot have more than 20 locations, regardless of whether those locations do business under the same name or different names or in different industries. if the applicant has a pending application for or has received a shuttered venue operator grant. So you can't have both. If the entity is a public traded company, it's permanently closed, it's a nonprofit organization, it's not eligible for funding of at least $1,000. Okay. Now here are the different forms of organization. You can be a C corporation, an S corporation, a partnership, an LLC, a sole proprietor or self-employed individual, an independent contractor, a tribal business, or an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a sole proprietor. Okay. Now franchises are eligible. A business concern operating as a franchise and meeting all other program requirements is eligible, but the franchise must be listed on the SBA franchise directory. In the application portal, the applicants will be able to look up whether or not their entity is on the SBA franchise directory. For brands not listed on the directory, including brands that have previously been denied listing on the directory because of affiliation issues, the franchisor must submit the franchise disclosure document or other agreement and all other documents a franchise is required to sign. And you'll send it to franchise@sba.gov for review of SBA's other eligibility criteria. Okay. Bankruptcy. This is interesting. You are eligible if you've gone through bankruptcy. Applicants that are operating under an approved, this is important, it's got to be under an approved plan of reorganization under either a Chapter 11, Chapter 12, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy and meet all program requirements. They will be eligible for funding. Now, you will not be eligible if the entity has permanently closed, filed a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, or filed for either a Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but is not under an approved plan of reorganization. Again, remember, because you permanently closed does not include those businesses that had temporarily closed their doors due to state or local restrictions or other pandemic causes, but are still in operation or have reopened. So that's pretty good news. Okay. Paycheck Protection Program. How does it fit? Okay. Now, any funds that you receive through the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, will be subtracted from the applicant's final funding amount. The applicant is verified using the EIN, I-10, or SSN associated with this PPP loan. If the applicant received a PPP loan, the applicant must use the same EIN number for its RRF application as it is used in its PPP application. There's a lot of consonants here. If an applicant applied for a first draw PPP loan for multiple locations under one EIN and subsequently applied for a second draw PPP loan under a different EIN, the applicant must provide the EINs for each entity that receives second draw PPP loans. Upon applying for an RRF, the applicant must withdraw any outstanding PPP application. The applicant cannot have a pending application or have received a shuttered venue operator grant. Now, all this information, just so you don't have to worry about writing it real quick. Now, I'm going to give you a website at the end that where you can find all this information. So you can just kind of listen to it and you can get your information later and take notes. Okay, next one. Okay, on all applications, the applicant's got to certify that current economic uncertainty makes the funding request necessary to support ongoing or anticipated operations. Okay. Now here's the allowable use of funds, and nothing's and you have to kind of look through this. And there's again that website I gave you will help explain a lot of this. Okay, you can use it for your business expenses like payroll costs, including sick leave, business utility payments, business maintenance expenses, business supplies, including protective equipment and cleaning materials, business food and beverage expenses, covered supplier costs, business operating expenses, including insurance, marketing, fees, licenses, legal, or point of sale equipment. And point of sale equipment is the information we're talking about for like Toast, Square, and those particular type of things where you take the cash. Okay, construction expenses, construction of outdoor seating, that is eligible. But if you pure construction for expansion costs will not be ineligible. There's a question we got in the last time we were here. There was a question whether or not someone can buy a new truck, and it's not a yes or no answer. It depends what the reason is for the truck. If a person is buying a new truck because a current one broke down and they're replacing it, that would be eligible. If you're buying a new truck because you want to buy a new truck for your business so you can expand it, that would not be eligible. So it depends on reasoning here. You can use it to pay your debt. For your mortgage and interest, you can pay that, but you cannot prepay it. Use the money to prepay your mortgage and interest. And it has to be a regularly scheduled payment of debt, like a monthly payment that you're paying off. And same with any other type of debt service, like credit cards or any other debt you got into to keep the business going. Okay. When do you have to use the funds? I think this is a good part of this particular grant. The funds must be spent on expenses that were or are incurred between February 15th, 2020, and you don't have to expend it until March 11th, 2023. If the business permanently closes, however, after receiving the funds, the covered period will end when the business permanently closes or on March 11th, 2023, whichever occurs sooner. Any funds not spent on eligible expenses by the time the covered period ends must be returned to the government. Because there's going to be use of funds assessment, basic reporting. After the total awarded funds have been exhausted, the entity must provide a detailed expenditure report and certification for the required period. So it's going to be real important that you keep your receipts. Until applicant completes the use of the funds assessment, beginning December 2021, the applicant will be required to provide a self-reported, unaudited data detailing use of distributed funds each year through 2023. So what that means, say for instance, you use your funds by the end of this year, 2021. You got to give a year-end report how you use that, and there will be more detail on how to do that report. But the good news on that, once you've used all your exhausted funds, you will not have, and you filed that report, you will not have to file one in 2022 or 2023 because you filed a year-end report already. Okay. Okay, here's the big question. How much money am I going to get? Okay, for those applicants that were in operation prior to or on January 1st, 2019, what you're basically going to do is take your 2019 gross receipts minus your 2020 gross receipts, and then you will minus your PPP loan amount. Simple example. Say you made $100,000 in 2019. Because of the pandemic, you only made $50,000. So that would give you a $50,000 grant, but you got $25,000 combined in PPP1 and PPP2. So that would leave you left $25,000 grant that you would receive. Okay. The second calculation. This is for those applicants that began operations partially through 2019. You will take your average 2019 monthly gross receipts times 12, minus your 2020 gross receipts, again, and then minus your PPP loan amounts. Now, there's another calculation, and applicants in this particular category that began their operations partially in 2019, you can choose to use this calculation number 2 or calculation number 3, which is next. However, calculation number 3 is going to require a longer processing time. Okay. Calculation number 3. Applicants that began operations on or before January 1st, 2020 and March 10th, 2021, and for applicants who have not yet opened but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11th, 2021. The way you calculate this one is you'll take the total amount spent on eligible expenses between February 15th, 2020 and March 11th, 2021, minus your 2020 and 2021 gross receipts, again, minus the PPP loan amounts. Now, once you use this particular calculations, it's going to take a little longer because there will be a lot of receipts that we're going to take physical looking at. So, and the other first two that you can follow that online, that makes it easier for the SBA to look through that. It's done through machinery. This one takes actual physical and personal review. So that's why it's going to take a little longer. Okay, what can you exclude from your 2020 receipts? Do not include any of the following in your 2020 gross receipts. Any money from the payroll protection program, because we're already deducting that. SBA 1112 payments, that's a banking term, so they will know what that is, although we will not be using banks at any time in this process. An SBA economic idle loan, an idle advance, targeted idle advance, or any other grant funds received via the CARES Act. You cannot include any state or local business grants or any Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief and restoration payments appropriation. Okay. Now, how do you apply? Here's one of the first two websites that's going to be important to know about. Restaurants.sba.gov. And actually, today is the first day you can actually go on that website and you can register. You can't apply until this Monday, but you can actually go to this website and start registering. I think you can go and put like establish your password, establish your ID, but you can at least start registering on the website starting today. You can apply through a point of sale vendor that we discussed, whether that's Aloha, Toast, some of the others that are out there. And if you're part of that, ask if they're part of the agreement that SBA has done with them. Or you can apply through a telephone. And the number there, and this telephone number is going to be important just for applications and for questions. It's 844-279-8898. Now, I know we're going to go through some best practices, but they have told us if you apply through the telephone, what they'll do is they'll take your information and they'll mail you an application. And then you have to wait for the mail. And then you'll fill it out and then either mail it back or put it online, but that's going to take some time. So this thing is moving pretty quickly. So it behooves you you can do it either way you want, but if you apply online, that's going to be ensure a lot quicker of getting your application in. Okay. What documents are you going to need? There's the application, and that's SBA Form 3172. That's basically the application. You got to complete it, initial it, and sign it. The good thing, if you do this online, you can do it digitally on the SBA grant platform we just went over, and this will satisfy this requirement. We're going to need verification of tax information, and that's IRS Form 4506 that, again, will need to be completed, signed by the applicant. Completion of this form digitally on the SBA grant platform, again, will satisfy the requirement. Gross receipts documentation. Any of the following documents demonstrating gross receipts and, if applicable, eligible expenses. We need your business tax returns, IRS Form 1120 or IRS Form 1120-S. We need your IRS Form 1040, Schedule C, IRS 1040, Schedule F. Or for partnership, we need the partnerships IRS Form 1065, including K1s, bank statements. And the bank statements we're going to need are those three months previous to when you applied. So say, for instance, you apply on Monday. So we'll need your April, your March, and February bank statements. Externally or internally prepared financial statements such as income statements or P&L statements or point of sale reports, including the IRS Form 1099-K. Even though these are acceptable documentation, they all don't carry the same weight, and we'll go over that. Okay, again, required for calculations 1 and 2. Yes, the application, Form 3172, tax verification, the 4506T, gross receipts, your tax returns, 3-month bank statements, 2020 gross receipts, and we need at least one of the following. The preferred thing that we like to see is your federal tax returns that are filed, or a point of sale report. What we will accept, externally or internally prepared financial statements, such as income statements or P&L loss statements, signed and dated and certified as to accuracy by the applicant. Okay. For calculation number 3, and it's real small. But again, you need the application, the tax verification, 3 months of bank statements, and they also need a supporting account linkage validation. That's in the application itself. I think you upload your bank information, and then there's a linkage, I guess, a site there, and I guess that's normal course of business that a lot of people have. And it's important to know that when you apply for this, it's best to apply with your business bank account. If you apply with a personal bank account, that's going to send some red flags. So if you have a business account, use your business account to apply. Now, the preferred documentation for 2020 and 21 gross receipts, again, the preferred is the 2020 federal tax returns filed or 2020 federal tax returns prepared but not yet filed. 2020 point of sale reports or 2021 point of sale reports, because these point of sale vendors we talked about, they can help prepare your reports for you, because as you're running your money through that and you're paying with them, that will be acceptable documentation for the SBA. Eligible expense documentation, at least one. Again, the preferred one is the CPA comfort letter, and because it provides the fastest SBA review. If we see that as accountant or CPA comfort letter, they'll know what that is. If you submit expense related to the following categories, we need appropriate documentation like payroll documentation, the 941s, outdoor seating expenditures like invoices and payments, or business debt lender loan statements. What we'll accept, but it may take longer because we're going to have to review it personally, externally or internally prepared financial statements such as income statements, P&L loss statements that are signed, dated, and certified as accurate by the applicant. The applicant submits expenses related to the following categories. We need appropriate documentation like payroll documents, again, outdoor seating, expenditure invoices and payments, and business debt, again, a lender loan statement. Okay. Again, I know it's a lot. Again, look at that website so you have a chance to review exactly what they want. And I'll give you that name of that website when we're done here. In addition to the documents of the prior slide, for those applicants that are brew pubs, tasting rooms, tap rooms, breweries, wineries, distillery, or bakeries, we'll need some kind of documents that evidence that the on-site sales to the public comprise at least 33% of gross receipts for 2019. And this may include the tax and trade bureau forms, state or local forms that are filed, or internally created reports from inventory management, sales reporting, or accounting software. For businesses that opened in 2020, we'll need the applicant's original business model should have contemplated at least 33% of gross receipts in on-site sales to the public. And we say original business model, that's basically your business plan. That says that you contemplated 33% was going to be on-site sales. For applicants that are in, remember this is an inn, this is not hotel, motel, these are inns. And there's a separate NAIC code, NAIC, that designate what an inn is and what a hotel, motel is. These are for inns. We need documents to evidence that on-site sales of the food and beverage to the public comprise at least 33% of gross receipts for 2019. For businesses that opened in 2020, we're going to need your business plan that shows that you contemplated at least 33% of your gross receipts in on-site sales of food and beverage to the public. Okay. Where do I get help? That number I gave you earlier is the same one, 844-279-8898. And what's great about this particular number, it's going to be available in multiple languages. I think we're up to 32 different languages now. You can find directly a Spanish and English, of course, but they have, and there's so many languages, I can't even say the names, but there's like 32, 33 different languages that they'll be able to help in making this application. Or you can go to www.sba.gov/local-assistance. What's great about this, we have organizations like the different chambers, all part of this, that are part of this. We have the small business development centers. We have our SCORE chapters, women's business centers are all very helpful for this particular application. And again, one of the best places to help to get, I'll use that website I told you about. It helps walk you through. It's one of the better websites SBA has ever done. Okay. Okay, best practices. Please provide complete documentation. Applications with incomplete documentation will be rejected. This will start the process. We'll have to restart when all the complete documentation is provided. And delays could jeopardize the applicant receiving the award. Leverage your resources. While not required, the use of CPAs or other accounting professionals may help ensure a complete and well-documented application. Application corrections. SBA will not be able to make corrections on behalf of the applicant. However, those who do require corrections, they will need to contact the hotline we just mentioned, which is the 844-279-8898 number. And applicants who still intend to apply for a PPP, RRF applicants are advised to complete their PPP application in advance of the RRF application. Okay. When can you apply? Now they just had the pilot period, which is just ended. In that pilot period, SBA picked about 1,000 companies throughout the country to go through the process of applying and work out the kinks. And so but they did not receive any funding. And what we found when they did all this, filling out the application, if you have all your documents available, took about 25 to 30 minutes. But that's if you have all your documents ready to go and upload. Okay, now there's going to be a priority period, which will start this Monday. The priority period will be for women, veterans, those who are socially or economically disadvantaged. There will be the original 21. For the first 21 days will be just for them. And day 22, everyone will be able to, all applications will be processed and funded until the program funds are exhausted. So it's important during the first 21 days, although you may not get your funding, I would still recommend you go and apply. You can still go ahead and apply. Okay. Now, small business concern has at least 51, these are the priority groups. A small business concern has at least 51% owned and managed in the daily operations of the applicant that are controlled by one or more of the following individuals: women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged. Applicants must self-certify on the application that they meet eligibility requirements. For one good example how this is going to work. You have an applicant, again, which is the business, has 5 owners, and each one owns 20% of the applicant's business. 2 of the owners are veterans, and one of the owners is socially and economically disadvantaged individual. SBA will consider this applicant to meet the requirements that at least 51% of the applicant is owned by a priority group. So you can combine the priority group. Okay. Okay, what is the socially disadvantaged individual? These are those individuals who have been subjected, this is historically been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. These individuals, these are the presumed members of the group. This will be Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, including Alaska Natives and Native Hawaiians, Asian Pacific Americans, or subcontinent Asian Americans. Economically, so these folks will be presumed to be in the priority group. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in the free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. And there's more information on what that is on the website I'll be giving you here in a second. So one thing on that is that what we've been told is that those in the LGBT community or disabled, they will not be a presumed socially disadvantaged, but they will be presumed to be in that, but they will still have to prove economic disadvantage as well. Okay, this is important. A lot of folks are asking, well, should I just go and change who I am as far as my organization is so I can qualify as a priority period or priority group? We're basically advising people don't do that, because any entity that reorganizes for the purpose of qualification for the priority period will result in automatic disqualification of the award. You'll be on SBA's bad list. Okay, here's the funding set-asides. $5 billion was going to be set aside for the applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than $500,000. An additional $4 billion will be set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts from $500,001 to $1.5 million. An additional $500 million is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than $50,000. That's in any group. That's what this is set aside for. Okay, SBA reserves the right to reallocate these funds at the discretion of the administrator. I know that's a lot. Okay, the other website I was going to give you, it's basically the SBA website, sba.gov/, and actually if you go to the sba.gov, you'll see on that website, you'll see COVID-19 options. Click on COVID-19 relief option. Just click on that. When you get to that, you'll see different SBA programs and funding programs that we got. But you'll see the Restaurant Relief Fund icon on there. Click on that. When you get to that particular website, you'll see things supporting documents, or click on the supporting document. Then you'll see the frequently asked questions section and a lot of information on questions that you may have. You'll find that any questions you may have is probably in that session, and they've answered it. But I definitely want to get your questions for today. I know it's a lot of information. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. And if I don't know the answer, I'll guarantee I'm going to that website I just talked to you about to try to find the answer to get that for you. Okay?
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate the update and the information. There is a lot, just like any program through the federal government and through the SBA, there's always a lot of paperwork, but I have to tell you, in years of working with the SBA and others, this seems like one of the simpler applications and processes that you guys have ever had. So it's really great. I wanted to take a minute to reiterate, because we don't have any questions. So if anyone has any, either get those in the chat, or I'll give you just a minute here in a second, because we are a small group that you can unmute and ask your question yourself. But I wanted to reiterate, you had mentioned the first 21-day period, and that people, even if they don't fall in one of those categories, should go ahead and apply. And I just wanted to reiterate that, yes, because on the 22nd day, you will go back. It's not like those get thrown out. They will be sitting in a waiting area, basically.
Yeah, and they'll start funding at that point. They'll probably go and look at them, but they'll start funding as of day 22. Okay.
So kind of a first come, first served in a way. So you want to get your application in.
Yes. Okay. And I think the difference there, and thing that they start, it's not done by it's kind of first come, first serve, but you just want to be sure it's in the pot.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone on the call has any questions that you would like to ask, we would be happy to have Mike answer those for you, or get you the information if he doesn't know
Yes,
quite yet.
I don't know. I'll get it for you. Well, again, that website, take your time, look at it. You got the weekend, and the funding is not going to run out in the first 22 days, the first 21 days. So that's a lot of money, but I would still try to get your application in and just be ready to go as soon as it comes up. And one thing that I think we talked about is a lot of folks are going to worry about whether or not they're going to meet eligible expenses. Again, it's kind of a two-step process here. Get your application in, and then once you're accepted and you're funded, then you have until 2023 to use it on eligible expenses. Well, I guess we got no questions.
I guess not.
I mean, we've done a
They've
great
probably
job
already they've probably already gotten online and they're checking it out for the application and the things that you told them about this morning. So
and we're going to do the same with the Kansas Department of Commerce here next week. So I'll send you guys the link if they would like to get on the Kansas Department of Commerce. We're doing another session on everything we're talking about.
Excellent. We would be happy to provide that information for people that couldn't be on the call today or people that want to listen again.
And on that website I talked about, there's actually videos on that website, tutorials, so they can look at that as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mike. We appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Well, you guys have a great day, and go out and eat tonight somewhere.
Yes, support your local restaurants for sure.
There you go. I'll be out there doing my best. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Adios.